Welcome to Bookmas. My name is Tammy, and this is where characters gather. Today we are going to do another episode of Hidden on My Kindle, and I went through my Kindle once again and grabbed a variety of books. Some of them are rather recent purchases, some of them are very old purchases, or freebies, or however you want to describe it. So it's going to be a good mix. Some of them sound really good, some of them I'm not sure why I got, but hey, they're there, so I'm gonna, remind myself that they exist. First up would be The Ragged Edge of Night by Olivia Hawker, and this is historical fiction, and I will read you the blurb. Germany, 1942. Franciscan friar Anton Starzmann is stripped of his place in the world when his school is seized by the Nazis. He relocates to a small German hamlet to wed Elizabeth Herder, a widow who seeks a marriage, in name only, to a man who can help her raise her 3 children. Anton seeks something too: atonement for failing to protect his young students from the wrath of the Nazis. But neither he nor Elizabeth expects their lives to be shaken once again by the inescapable rumble of war. As Anton struggles to adapt to the roles of husband and father, he learns of the Red Orchestra, an underground network of resistors plotting to assassinate Hitler. Despite Elizabeth's reservations, Anton joins this army of shadows. But when the SS discovers his schemes, Anton will embark on a final act of defiance that may cost him his life, even if it means saying goodbye to the family he has come to love more than he ever believed possible. I do know this is now available on Kindle Unlimited. It is 340 pages, and I'm impressed that I, at some point, picked up a World War II fiction. So, that alone makes this unique. Okay, next up would be The Library at the Edge of the World. It is by Felicity Hayes McCoy. It is the first in the Finfarren Peninsula series, and I have read nothing by her. I am very much looking forward to this book. As she drives her mobile library van between villages of Ireland's west coast, Hannah Casey tries not to think about a lot of things, like the sophisticated lifestyle she abandoned after finding her English barrister husband in bed with another woman, or that she's back in Lisbech, the rural Irish town she walked away from in her teens, living in the back bedroom of her overbearing mother's retirement bungalow. Or worse yet, her nagging fear that, as the local librarian and a prominent figure in the community, her failed marriage and ignominious return have made her a focus of gossip. With her teenage daughter Jazz off traveling the world and her relationship with her own mother growing increasingly tense, Hannah is determined to reclaim her independence by restoring a derelict cottage left to her by her great aunt. But when the threatened closure of the Lissig library puts her personal plans in jeopardy, Hannah finds herself leading a battle to restore the heart and soul of the Finfarren Peninsula's fragmented community. And she's about to discover that the neighbors she always kept at a distance have come to mean more to her than she ever could have imagined. I just think this sounds incredibly charming. It is 368 pages, and I want to dive into this one. I wanted to dive into it since I picked it up earlier this year. I just haven't had time. So it's one of those I need to make time for books. Okay, next up. This is Deadly Engagement by Lucinda Brandt. It is the first in the Alex Halsley mysteries, and it is a historical mystery. It is 297 pages, and I will read you the blurb. Spring 1763, Career diplomat Alec Hazley returns to London to the shocking news his estranged brother, the Earl of Delvin, has not only killed his friend in a duel, but is engaged to the woman Alec hoped to marry. The dead man's mother wants Alec to investigate, so he reluctantly attends a weekend house party celebrating the engagement. House guests get more than they bargained for when a lady's maid is murdered. The bride-to-be is attacked, and a guest is shot dead. That's a party. Uncovering a connection between these sinister acts and his brother's duel, Alec confronts a cruel twist of fate and why his brother will go to any lengths to ruin him in polite society. Okay, I need to read this. Yeah, I need to read it. And something in the back of my head is telling me I also own this on Audible, so I really wanted to read it at some point. Okay, next up, this is a recent win from a Goodreads giveaway, and that is The Autumn of Ruth Winters, and this is literary adult fiction. It is 264 pages, so on the very short side for me. And this is a very recent published, by the way. Nope, it says it was first published in 1991. In this heartwarming story about second acts and second chances, a no-nonsense retiree, very much set in her ways, must learn to adapt and make peace with her past in order to build a fulfilling future. Ruth Winters is retired, widowed, and resigned to spending the rest of her life alone in her suburban home. She likes her routine and uses it to avoid having to spend time with other people. She probably wouldn't call herself fulfilled, but it's too late now to go chasing happiness. Then three things happen as a beloved niece makes a big announcement. An old flame reaches out, and her estranged sister receives life-changing news. Ruth finds herself reconnecting with people she thought were long gone from her world, and she is forced to reconsider her expectations for this phase of her life. None of this fits into Ruth's routine. In fact, the whole thing just blows to bits. But when Ruth starts to pick up the pieces, she discovers that maybe it's not too late to make something new after all. I just think it sounds incredibly charming. I love when characters are older, so it's right up my alley. Next up would be The Watchmaker's Daughter by C.J. Archer. This is the first book in the Glass and Steel series. It is 302 pages, and I believe it's historical fantasy. So, here's the blurb. India Steele is desperate. Her father is dead, her fiancé took her inheritance, and no one will employ her, despite years. Next up is a cozy. That is Death by Honeybee by Abigail Keem. This is the first in the Joshua Reynolds mystery series. It is 300 pages, and I will read you the blurb. Joshua Reynolds, a former history professor, was once a celebrity with wealth, social position, and a famous husband. Now all of that is gone. The professor finds her circumstances drastically altered. Josiah is now a full-time beekeeper, trying to stay financially afloat by selling honey at the local farmer's market. She finds her world turned upside down when a man is found dead in her bee yard, only to discover the victim is her competitor and nemesis. The police suspect the brutal death is murder, and Josiah is their number one suspect. She is determined to find out who is trying to frame her, along with her assistant Matt, who is 20 years her junior and gay, and her lawyer, Shanika, an African-American woman rumored to be a descendant of a historically prominent Lexington family. Josiah's powerful but secretive daughter pops in and out of her mother's life, pulling strings to protect her mother from danger. Set in the beautiful horse country of the bluegrass region, Josiah makes rounds of quirky characters that can only be found in Kentucky. Fighting an unseen enemy in the glamorous world of thoroughbreds, oak-cured bourbon, and antebellum plantation houses, Josiah struggles to uncover the truth in a city that keeps its secrets well. I am intrigued. I want to know more. So, right up my alley. Love me a good cozy. Next up would be Miranda Warning by Heather Day Gilbert. This is the first in Murder in the Mountain series. It is Christian fiction, and I will read you the blurb. Child of the Appalachian Mountains, Tess Spencer has experienced more than her share of heartache. The Glock-wielding, knife-carrying housewife knows how to survive whatever life throws at her. But when an anonymous warning note shows up in her best friend Miranda's mailbox, a note written in a dead woman's handwriting, Tess quickly discovers that ghosts are alive and well in Buckneck, West Virginia. Hot on a cold trail, she must use limited clues and her keen insight into human nature to unmask the killer. Or the next victim might be Tess herself. Tinged with supernatural and overshadowed by the mountain's lush, protective presence, this twisty psychological mystery is the first in a new series. So, I think that sounds terrific, and I am here for it. Okay, next up would be The Hotel at Beach and Forgotten by Nellie Brooks. This is the first in the Mendocino Cove series, and I love that cover. I love that cover. This is 287 pages, and it is women's fiction. So, time will tell. After many happy years in Nantucket and Maine, Jenny suddenly finds herself widowed, penniless, and going on 50. Jenny escapes to beautiful Mendocino Cove, the small town at the west coast where she grew up. Here, her grandmother's beloved seaside hotel still sits empty and abandoned on the former corner of Beach Street and Forgotten Lane. Despite her acclaimed research into the history of Nantucket, Jenny worries she is too old to find a job and start over. But Mendocino Cove is full of sandy beaches, enchanting morning fogs, and a kind people. Soon, Jenny finds sisterhood of women ready to help, and a childhood friend who never stopped waiting for her. Tackling obstacles with humor and heart, Jenny gets a second chance at love and uncovers a startling family secret. I've been to Mendocino, and I love an older character, as we all know, so it's going to be right up my alley. Next up would be Old Acquaintance by Ruth Hay. This is the first book in the Primetime series. It is 270 pages, and it says it is a contemporary mystery romance set in Scotland. I'll read you the blurb. First in a series of linked novels, Old Acquaintance is the story of a woman in her 60s who has lost her confidence through the life events, including a divorce. Anna has a part-time job in a library and a group of good friends, but her hopes for a brighter future are growing dim. Unexpectedly, she receives a legal letter informing her that she's inherited a piece of property in Scotland. Her first instinct is to ignore this letter, as she has no knowledge of the person named as the owner. And his friends persuade her to travel to Scotland and stay until she can decide how to dispose of the farmhouse near Oban. So begins an adventure which opens up prospects for Anna and introduces her to a new environment and new people who help her. Will Anna adjust to living in a farmhouse with a minimum of amenities? Will she solve the family mystery of the unknown relative who has bestowed this legacy on her? Will she leave Canada for Scotland or return to her homeland and her safe life there? I think that sounds fantastic. So I am more than willing to give it a chance. Next up is Murder in Stained Glass by Margaret Armstrong. This, I believe, is a classic mystery. and cozy. And it is 186 pages. When the remains of temperamental artist Frederick Ullathorne are found in his own fiery kiln, it looks like a ghastly murder has been committed. But with only a few bones as evidence, the local police are getting nowhere fast. Can Miss Trumbull pick up the clues that the police are missing? Or will her interfering get her into trouble in more ways than one? That is a nice, brief little blurb. And she has several others, so it will be interesting. And it's not going to be a long read, so sometimes short reads for new authors are the way to go. Okay, next up is Nocturne for a Widow by Amanda DeWeese. This is the first in the Sybil Ingram series. It is 288 pages, and it says it is a gothic historical paranormal mystery. One of those kitchen sink genres. Vivacious actress Sybil Ingram looks forward to a life of security when she leaves the theater to marry a wealthy American. But when he dies on their wedding night, she finds herself a penniless widow. Her only legacy is Brook House, a Gothic revival manor in the wilds of the Hudson River Valley. However, the eerie mansion comes with two tenants. One is a hostile ghost. The second, and far worse, is former violinist Roderick Brooke, the most insolent, dangerous, and maddeningly gorgeous man she's ever met. As Sybil and Roderick engage in a battle of wills and wits, she finds herself increasingly drawn to him despite her growing suspicion that there is a connection between him and the spirit that haunts Brook House. But soon an even greater threat arises. The mysterious queen of local society, Mrs. Lavinia Dove. For reasons that Sybil can't imagine, Mrs. Dove is determined to have Brook House and Roderick for herself, if necessary, by deadly means. Ooh. Yeah. I'm interested. Okay. Next up, King of the Crown Imperials by Joanna Alonso. This is Christian fiction. It is 394 pages, and it is inspired by the story of Queen Esther. Danger lurks everywhere. No one needs to know. She's a beautiful diversion. Time to put on a show. The royal internship in the island country of Anacoria is the perfect way for Vivian to end her year-long journey across the world. She gets more adventure than she bargains for, where the internship requires her to pretend to be the prince's fiancé. With two spies missing and rumors of war spreading across the kingdom, the last thing Philip wants is to figure out his love life. A chance encounter with his cousin's best friend draws the nation's fascination and provides the perfect distraction to buy him time to protect his throne, family, and country. Will their farce of an engagement succeed in shielding the kingdom from its enemies, or will the lies reduce their faith, love, and country to ashes? Again, another one I think sounds really good and up my alley. Okay, next up would be The Empress by Laura Martinez Bailey, translated by Simon Bruni, and this is historical fiction. It is 402 pages. It's on Kindle Unlimited, and it says it is 1863. Napoleon III has installed a foreign monarch in Mexico to squash the current regime. Maximilian von Habsburg of Austria accepts the emperor's crown, but it is his wife, the brilliant and ambitious Princess Charlotte, who throws herself passionately into the role. Known to the people as Empress Carlotta, she rules deftly from behind the scenes while her husband contents himself with philandering and decorating the palace. But Carlotta bears a guilty secret. Trapped in a loveless marriage, she's thrown herself into a reckless affair. Desire has blinded Carlotta to its consequences, for it has left her vulnerable to her sole trusted confidant. Carlotta's devious lady-in-waiting has political beliefs of her own, and they are strong enough to cause her to betray the Empress and join a plot to depose her from the throne. As Carlotta grows increasingly, maddeningly defenseless, both her own fate and that of the Empire are at stake. A sweeping historical novel of forbidden love, dangerous secrets, courtly intrigue, and treachery, the Empress passionately reimagines the tragic romance and ill-fated reign of the most unforgettable royal couple of 19th century Europe during the last throes of the Second Empire. I think this sounds fabulous, and I'm interested. Next up is Mistletoe Malarkey by Stella Bixby. This is the first in the Shayla Murphy series. It is a cozy mystery. They have been dating more than a year. They practically live together. Now Shayla is meeting his family for Christmas in Ireland. Seamus is a park ranger, shares an apartment with 3 other guys, and drives a beat-up pickup truck. How would Shayla have known he was practically Irish royalty? When they arrive at the airport and are bombarded by camera flashes, Shayla's insecurities move closer and closer to the surface. An old girlfriend, a creepy uncle, and an entire town are on hand for a getting-to-know-you dinner party. Everything is going well until someone ends up dead. The Guardia wants Shayla to stay out of it. She may be a police officer in the United States, but she has no jurisdiction in Ireland. Too bad. She can't seem to keep from stumbling onto clues everywhere she goes. Cozy up with this fun Christmas mystery this holiday season. I'm definitely in the mood for that. Okay, 2 more to go. Next up is the Borrow a Bookshop Holiday by Kylie Dunbar. This is the first in the Borrow a Bookshop series, and this cover is so engaging, and I think this sounds fantastic. This one is actually a Christmas book. It is a contemporary romance, so I will read you the blurb. The Borrow a Bookshop calf info. Thanks to Waterstone's much better description. The Borrow a Bookshop Cafe invites literature lovers to run their very own bookshop for a fortnight. Spend your days talking books with customers in your own charming bookshop and serving up delicious cream teas in the cozy cafe. Bookworms, what are you waiting for? Your holiday is going to be lit. Hooray. Apply to the Borrow a Bookshop Cafe down along Clove Lane, Devon. Jude Crawley should be on top of the world. She's just graduated as a mature student, so can finally go public about her relationship with philosophy professor Mac. Till she sees Mac kissing another girl and her dreams crumble. And worse, their dream holiday, running a tiny bookshop in the harbor village of Clove Lore for 2 weeks, is non-refundable. Throwing caution to the wind, June heads to Devon, eager to immerse herself in the literature and heal her broken heart. But there's one problem. 6-foot-tall, brooding, but gorgeous Elliot, who's also reserved the bookshop holiday for 2 weeks. As Jude and Elliot put their differences aside to run the bookshop, it seems that Jude might be falling in love with more than just words, until she discovers what Elliot is running from, and why he's hiding out in Clove Lore. Can Jude find her own happy ending in a tiny, tumble-down bookshop? Or is she about to find that her bookish holiday might have an unexpected twist in the tale? I think that sounds fantastic, even if it has a poorly written blurb on Goodreads. So, yeah. Okay. Last one. I know I have talked about this recently, and I should have read this immediately after reading Frankenstein this year, but every time I think of it, I forget, and then it just sits there. So now it's going to go sit on my desktop and remind me to read it. It is Unnatural Creatures by Chris Wallander. This is a novel of the Frankenstein women. Okay. For the first time, the untold story of three women closest to Victor Frankenstein is brought into life in a dark and sweeping reimagining of Frankenstein, the mother. Caroline Frankenstein will do anything to protect her family against the nightmarish revolutions engulfing 18th century Europe. In doing so, she creates her own monster in the form of her scientist son, Victor, whose obsession with conquering death leads to forbidden realms. The bride. Rescued by Caroline as a 4-year-old beggar, angelic Elizabeth Laventia understands the only way she can repay the Frankensteins is by accepting Victor's hand in marriage. But when Elizabeth's heart yearns for someone else, the lives of those she loves most collide with the unnatural creature born in Victor's profane experiments. The servant. An abusive childhood, otherworldly Justin Moreau is taken in by Caroline to serve the Frankensteins. Justine's devotion to Caroline Elizabeth knows no bounds, until a family tragedy changes her irrevocably. Her fate sets her against Victor's monster, who is desperate for a mate, and desperate to wreak havoc against the Frankensteins. Stunningly written and exquisitely atmospheric, A Natural Creature shocks new life into Mary Shelley's beloved Gothic classic by revealing the feminine side of the tale. You'll never see Victor Frankenstein and his monster the same way again. And I know that Jamie Jo Wright recently, 2024, did a spotlight on this book, so I am looking forward to it. You know, I didn't particularly enjoy Frankenstein. I thought it was a convoluted math, so I'm hoping this helps Frankenstein. We shall see. Any of these catch your attention? Have you read any of them? Let me know in the comments down below. Like and subscribe, and I will see you here next time at the Protagonist Pub.